Hello, pointers, and welcome to the latest installment of your virtual lesson. Today's topic is on meiosis, and I do realize that is eerily close to the pronunciation of mitosis, and it is also a very similar process. So how are we going to keep these processes straight? Well, we'll talk about that as we go on, but there is a second type of cell division called meiosis, which is also very similar to mitosis. That's today's topic. So why another type of cell division? Why do we have to have this other type of process? Meiosis is only used in 0.1% of all the cells in the entire body. It is used for one purpose, and that is for the process of making babies. The reproductive cells called gametes have to be produced by this process called meiosis. Now, what's so special about meiosis, and why can't we just use mitosis? Well, meiosis is necessary because it reduces the number of chromosomes by 1/2. And in order to have two parents combine cells together in order to make a baby, you have to reduce that number of chromosomes by half. Otherwise, every generation, the number of chromosomes would be doubling in the offspring. And eventually, the cell would be so full of chromosomes that the baby couldn't possibly function. And so meiosis is necessary to keep that number of chromosomes the same. Also, meiosis helps to create some variation, and that's why all babies don't look alike, and all people in your class are not exactly identically the same, because meiosis helps to create some of that variation, and we'll learn later about how that actually increases chances of survival by some members of that species. So it is an important process. It is a very small percentage of how cells that actually divide, but it is very important to produce these cells we call gametes. In production of gametes, we have to reduce the chromosome number by half. Now, how does meiosis do that? Well, in most organisms, you find the chromosomes in pairs. You get one set of chromosomes from your mom and one set of chromosomes from your dad, and each of those chromosomes basically pair up. There is one chromosome of each kind of size and shape that you get from each parent, and we call those chromosomes homologous. Homologous means roughly the same size and shape. They're not identical, they don't have the exact same genes on them, but they're pretty close. During meiosis, homologous pairs of chromosomes are going to split from each other, so that way the offspring will only get one set from each individual, and therefore we reduce that number of chromosome by half in those reproductive cells. In humans, meiosis would reduce our chromosome number from 46 in the normal cells to 23 in our reproductive cells. And that's a very important part of meiosis. What are the daughter cells like? Well, daughter cells have special names. They are called gametes, like we mentioned earlier, and gametes are only used for sexual reproduction. In the males, the gamete would be called the sperm, and in the females, those are called the egg. And when those two get together, they're going to mix their chromosomes, and they are going to form a whole new individual or a whole new baby. And in doing so, when the number of chromosomes from the egg combines with the half number of chromosomes from the sperm, they equal the whole number of chromosomes for the offspring, and it'll be the correct number. So these daughter cells called gametes are very important, and it's the only way that sexual reproduction can actually work. The process overall of meiosis is very similar to mitosis. It does use the same terms. We're talking about interphase and prophase and metaphase and cytokinesis. It uses very much the same set of terms. The only difference is you have to go through the process twice in meiosis, and there's one very important stage in the first prophase that we'll talk about that's different, and it makes meiosis unique, and it helps meiosis to do its jobs of creating variation and in reducing number of chromosomes. Let's talk about this process. Like mitosis, we are going to start in interphase. Interphase is just like mitosis, has G1, S, and G2, the normal cell activity. Chromosomes are going to replicate, and now the cell is ready to divide and go into its cell division. But this is a special cell. It's not destined to become a skin cell or a muscle cell. It is destined to become a reproductive cell. So instead of going into regular prophase, it enters what's called prophase 1 of meiosis. Just like in mitosis, the nuclear membrane is going to divide. These chromosomes are going to shorten and show up as these X shapes. However, the third part here is very important. Homologous chromosomes are going to find their partner. Those that are big, tall chromosomes, you're going to find the other big, tall chromosome. The little short ones are going to find the little short ones. The medium-sized ones with the goofy-looking tops are going to find the medium-sized one with the goofy-looking tops. They're going to find their partner that is roughly their same size and shape. And they do what's I guess for lack of a better word, called they hug. And the chromosomes will actually embrace and will kind of bond and stick to each other. So those homologous chromosomes are now paired up, and they will be paired until a little bit later on. That is prophase 1. After that, these pairs are going to then move to the middle of the cell, just like in mitosis, where they lined up end to end. In this case, it's the pairs that are going to line up end to end. The homologous pairs line up in the middle with the spindle fibers attaching to these chromosome pairs, these homologous chromosome pairs. Then, just like in mitosis, the next phase is going to be anaphase. But in this case, instead of the chromatids being separated, it is the homologous pairs of chromosomes that are separated. They are still in their full X shapes, and what we've done is we've taken apart these chromosomes that are the same size and same shape, and we're selecting teams that only have 2 members on them. In mitosis, we had a team that each consisted of 4. Right? So that's what's different here. And in the end, in telophase, they're going to huddle up and strategize just like mitosis. But in this case, we can already see this nucleus on top is very different from this nucleus below it. And so we've already created variation. We've created individual nuclei that are not exactly the same. And we also have reduced the number of colors that are in each nucleus by half, which is the goal. Are we done? Well, not quite. When we divided these up, they were still in their X shape, so we have to go into a second division. And so first of all, we have to divide the daughter cells just like we did with mitosis with cytokinesis, same process, and we're going to end up with 2 daughter cells. But instead of going into an interphase, we're going to go right into this prophase 2. And the chromosomes are still in their X shape, so we have to separate these chromatids because we have twice the amount of DNA for each chromosome. And so just like mitosis, the second meiotic division is just the same. Nuclear membrane disappears, chromosomes untangle from each other, show up as X shapes. They're going to line up in the middle. Notice how they actually line up in a 90-degree angle from metaphase 1. If they line up horizontal the first time, they'll line up vertically. End to end, spindle fibers attach. Then the anaphase, where they're going to pull those chromatids apart and separate them. Finally, our telophase, where we huddle up and strategize. And we're going to end up with, in the end, cytokinesis that will create 4 daughter cells. And the end result here, in the end, we have 4 unique cells that have only half the number of colors we started with, so half the number of chromosomes. They have variation from each other. Notice the bottom cells are green and yellow, the top are red and blue. They are definitely different. And these are cells that aren't destined to be normal cells like muscle, skin, or brain cells. These are cells that are destined for baby making. They are either egg cells if it's a female or sperm cells if it's a male. We call those cells gametes. And that is how we get these specialized cells for sexual reproduction. The process is, again, very similar to mitosis, twice the steps, but essentially the same concept with one exception, reducing that number of chromosomes by half and making the offspring genetically different. All right, so that is the process of meiosis. That is the purpose of meiosis, and we'll follow up with this tomorrow. So good luck in your learning, and we will see you in class.